like to actually kind of make this meeting. There is a Q&A section at the end, so that will obviously be interactive, but I would actually like to start by asking, those that are already here, how much experience do you all have with AI and, are you using it currently for your business?
Nope. None.
Looks like looks like Val says no, Maria says no. Janice, Hayden, Michelle, I know you are on mute, but if you want to message in the sidebar, you're welcome to.
I do not use AI.
No AI? Okay. The unique part about AI, I've been using it for about 4 years, so I was a relatively early adopter with regards to incorporating it into my business. And in the beginning, and why I kind of wanted to call attention to this topic today is in the beginning, I was using it very rudimentary. And so, I was using it to help me draft emails. I can write well. I got through college, got a degree, did the whole thing, but it takes time, and when you're trying to craft like the perfect email, I mean, you can spend 15 minutes or more depending on the length of the email kind of putting it together. So when I originally started working with AI, that was the complete and only use case that I had made for it at the time. And to be fair, in 4 years ago, AI was a lot different than it is today. There was not nearly as much generational power that you've got in the current, state today, to do all the crazy things that, we're going to talk about, and some things that we're not even going to discuss because it's just, you got to start with fundamentals. But that's how I got my feet wet. And so I started, working with the chat GPT because that was the mainstream and kind of the first into the market. And I'm sure you've all heard that phrase before. They're like the band-aid of the AI. It's like the first big brand, and now everyone just calls AI chat GPT. But there's been many that have come into the network and are very unique. So today I'm actually going to showcase what I think is the best platform for mortgage professionals, real estate agents, et cetera, which is Claude. Now we will talk about ChatGPT. We will talk about Gemini. There's also Grok. There's quite a few. There's even more than those, but those are like the big players in the game. So I'm going to get my PowerPoint going, and we're going to dive into a little about the use cases, and then we're actually going to do a live demonstration of kind of what you can do, and you all are going to kind of direct me through that. So first, I just want to make sure you all can actually see the presentation.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I'm not sure how it shows on your side, but are you all seeing your images or no?
No.
Okay, perfect. Sweet. So today's topic, as you all know, is AI for real estate agents. So the idea is to work smarter and close more deals. Now, AI is not here to replace you. It's not here to change how the business is run fundamentally. It's here to be a resource, okay? So what I mean by that is it's incredibly important for us to look at AI as kind of a supplement to what you already are doing, but more so in a way that can help you do more. That's kind of the takeaway I'd like for everyone to kind of think about AI, because I think, there's a negative light that gets painted with AI where people are afraid of it. They think it's going to replace, all the, jobs in the world and, all of those things. And there is some proof that that is happening. But I think for our industries, I think we all can agree that clients are always, always, always going to want a more centric, experience focused around customer service, hand holding, et cetera. I mean, we wear a lot of hats as real estate professionals. We're, the real estate professional ourselves, but we're also part-time therapists. We're, Captain Fix It. There's all these little things that we are to our clients that AI just cannot fix and or replace. We've seen companies try to do that. We've seen them try to do the whole digital real estate model in the past, and that has not ended well. And so I think what the market had told us is, we're still very needed, but we should use these tools and we should implement them into our business, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of benefits. So one of the main benefits is time saved. Okay. You can serve more clients with the time that you already have existing. And there's so many tasks that you can have AI do for you that maybe you couldn't do yourself. I'll be honest, like in college, I did a lot of PowerPoint presentations, but I never did PowerPoint presentations as beautiful as the ones that AI can help me generate. And so these are just some very small examples of what we can use it for. All right, let me see how to navigate this slide change. There we go. All right, so one of the main things I'm seeing a lot of agents use AI for, and this is past email generation, this is to help them with their business as far as marketing, is social media content, right? Helping you write catchy Instagram captions, LinkedIn posts, doing a content creation calendar. So, for Instagram captions, this is super easy. You have something that you've got a picture of, or you don't, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, and you want to write a really catchy Instagram caption. So you can post that on your social, cross post it to Facebook, and people think, wow, this is something I want to look at more. If you do this yourself, unless you're really good at it and very seasoned, you're not going to stand out. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm not saying that to be rude, but people that are really good at content creation, they've got one thing in common, is that they know how to build an interest into the topic using as few words as possible. And that is a very hard thing to be good at. Even if you go to school for it, even if you've done it in your professional career, it's hard to keep up with what the AI models can generate. And that's because AI models can literally follow what's trending right now and build out your content creation with that. And so that can be very helpful. So I'm seeing a lot of people use Instagram captions as some of the fundamental use cases for their AI. LinkedIn posts, that's self-explanatory. Content calendar. So, part of what is tedious or has been tedious in the past for those that have used social media for their business is figuring out what to post, right? That in itself is a task. So one of the benefits of using AI is you can have AI kind of tell you what to post. Again, using what's trending, maybe make it specific to certain things, give you ideas that you didn't have in your mind. Think about it as like a brainstorming, agent that can help you. But then not only that, but then it can build exactly what you need to build out to make your posting way simpler. So for example, and again, we're going to do a live model of this together today, but I can tell my AI, I can say, hey, I'd like to build out some content for the next week. Here's the 3 topics I want to cover. I want to post on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Help me generate the captions for it. Help me generate relevant hashtags, use trending information to make it more catchy, so on and so forth. And that's all I have to do to prompt. And then I click enter and it builds it out. It's pretty incredible. So these are some of the fundamental use cases that I'm seeing many, many professionals get involved in right now. Something that I've also noticed is that buyer and listing presentations are starting to get generated with AI. Now, this was not something that I would have seen a couple of years ago. The AI just wasn't there yet. Because part of a listing presentation is graphics. Part of it is, doing the design work of the actual presentation, not just the copy. The copy, we could have done that, 4 years ago with AI. It wouldn't have been as good as today, but to build out a proper presentation, something that looks good, something you can go to, FedEx and get printed today, with a few minutes of time from, AI, that wasn't possible, but that is today. So what you can do is you can prompt your AI models to build out a first-time home buyer presentation, and it can, you can tell it to walk buyers through the full process. You can have it build step-by-step guide on their specific situation. So if you know something about them and you want to do a personalized touch, you absolutely can do that. This can also be reusable. So, that's one of the benefits of AI is there's a memory thing within the models. And we'll cover that as well, that you can, if you like a presentation, you like a format of it, great, save it, come back to that later, replace it with a different client, make your life very, very easy. And so, something that previously you would have spent hours and hours and hours on, you can now do in as little as 10 minutes. And I can prove that because I did it all before this meeting, and I'll show you guys what I generated. Same goes for listing presentations. You can have, if you have an address, what you can do is you can plug the address in, and the AI models will look up the address, look up relevant information. You can feed it additional details. So if you know something about the property that you think is relevant to your presentation, great, throw it in there, generate it, and then bam, you're going to have instantly generated presentation. Email drafting. So I talked about this as like my original use case for AI. So email drafting is absolutely one of the most crucial, easiest, fastest things that you can do right now to get your feet wet in AI without going too deep. Okay. So for example, one of the things that I do is I take my phone, which has my app for whichever AI, and I dictate what I kind of want it to say, and then it'll take what I say, but just make it better, make it cleaner, put punctuation, format it correctly. It's still my words. It's still personal to the client. I always want my AI to be personal. I don't ever want it to be just a generic blah, right? Because that's not a good client touch. But it saves me time because instead of me typing this out, I just recorded myself for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I send it, and then a few minutes later or less, it's generated, and then I can preview it and see if I like it. If I don't, I can critique it, so on and so forth. But email generation is one of the easiest ways to get involved. Now, cold outreach, say you've got a client roster of past leads that, haven't really done anything in a while, and you want to figure out how to kind of generate some interest or just figure out if they're interested at all in buying in this year, 2026. Great. Plug in as much information as you can with the AI about them and then have it generate the emails for you. If you want to do like an Excel sheet or a Google sheet with the names, like a note section next to it, and just plug that into the AI, great, do that. It'll generate a specific email for each one of those clients. And then all you got to do is copy and paste. I would warn you, check your AI first. So before you just copy and paste and send, it's good to look because sometimes AI does get confused. But the idea is that takes significantly less time than doing a personalized email for every single one of those clients. It's still personalized, right? You put the notes in there that give it a relevant personal detail, but you didn't spend all the time carefully crafting, carefully putting that together. So you can do that for cold outreach. You can set up nurture emails. So let's say you have a flow for clients, right? So everyone's flow is going to be a little bit different, but let's say you take in a client and you have little journey steps that that you do with those clients. So instead of each step of the journey, you doing a custom email, what have you, when you take in a new lead, you can go ahead and prep those, right? You can go ahead and say what your journey is, tell the AI what it is, and it'll have all those ready. You can just save that for a later date somewhere, right? Or if you have a CRM that can automatically push messaging, then you can kind of format that. But the idea is, again, you can generate all of this very simply in a couple minutes versus each single time spending 10, 15 minutes per time. Now, I want to emphasize that even though we're using AI, it can still be your voice. So one of the things that I have done over the years is through my testing with the different models, I have critiqued how it speaks. So that's sometimes as simply as me just saying, hey, I don't like how you're talking like this, change it to this. Or it's me feeding emails that I've actually written myself or writings that I've written myself into it as an example, right? I like to talk very specifically, relatively directly, and short and sweet. I don't want to be too long-winded in my emails because people get lost sometimes in that. So I spent a lot of time, more time than I probably should have, but I spent a lot of time kind of carefully crafting how it speaks. So you can do that, and it does work. It absolutely works, and it's pretty incredible how it can repeat really who you are as a person. Now, for listing descriptions and marketing copy, we talked a little bit about this in the previous slides, but you got a couple steps. So from 0 to 60 seconds, you can give Claude the basics of your listing, right? You can tell it exactly what's going on with the home. You can tell it your target buyer, kind of who they might be, just to give it like an idea of how to write the description. And then you can write an MLS ready description immediately. And you can get social captions, all that generated just with the click of that button. You tell it what you want and it'll print all of it. Now, you need to review, always review. But once you review, you can critique whatever it's generated. And then you can, ask it to make the revisions, review one last time, and then it's ready to go. And in that time, for 0 to 60 seconds, or however long it takes you to review, you went from no MLS ready description to full MLS ready description, all your social posts ready to go, so on and so forth, right then and there. That could literally have saved you a day. and this is something we can do in a couple minutes. So for an example, you have just an example output, and I do want to emphasize we're going to do one together, team, but you got this right here. Tucked in the hardest South End, the stunning 3-bedroom captures the energy of Charlotte living without sacrificing a moment of peace. Exposed brick, chef's kitchen, and rooftop deck that was made for Sunday mornings. If you love that description, great, it's ready to go. If there's someone you would critique about that, just tell the AI what you don't like, how you would say it maybe slightly differently, and then feed that back, and then bam, it's most likely after the second time, it's going to be good to go. So super simple to make these things. And again, this is something that AI is ready for right now for you guys. Now we're going to do a live demo. So let me stop my share real quick and navigate to my website. So if you remember from the beginning of the call, I said that I am heavy into Claude right now, and that's what we're going to be using as an example for today. Claude is one of the biggest AI models right now. And if anyone watched the Super Bowl, they likely saw Claude do a couple commercials kind of making fun of ChatGPT. There's a little bit of beef between the two companies. We're not here to talk about East Coast, West Coast, red versus blue. We're here just to say that the reason that Claude is such a big company now is because they have put a lot of energy, time, money, and expense into creating something that is truly remarkable in what you guys can do. I pay money for Claude. It's $20 a month. It's 1,000% worth it to me. I would justify the $200 a month plan, honestly, because it's that helpful to my business. But the $20 a month plan, it's called the Pro plan. For most of you guys, this is going to be perfect. You get the perfect amount of usage. You can generate as much stuff as you're more likely than like, and you're going to be good to go. But one of the things that is very helpful for AI is creating what's called projects. So that project that I created for this call, and I'm going to show you how I did it, is called my Realtor AI Assistant. And so what I did was make it so that it can do first-time homebuyer guides, listing descriptions, social content, and email generation, okay? And I created an example for each, but let's just kind of see how we got there. So let's see. I think, here we go. So the key to AI is feeding it what you want. So what I did was I started with my little posts, which broke down the 4 different pillars of what we were going to cover today. So I gave it a little graphic, and I said, use the following graphic plus the written text below to generate a prompt for a project to be expert in those items. I want to make sure this is clean, catchy, professional, and attention grabbing, and setting us apart from the competition is the goal. Then I gave my little bullets. That's all I gave it. And then it used that information to basically tell me that has a clear use case. Now, it generated this all in kind of like a list, which is not what I wanted. What I wanted was for us to have a prompt. So the prompt is what we use to feed into these things called projects. And this is where the value is for you guys. So this is very important. The chats are how you start. The prompts are what you're generating to then do what you want to do. Because if you typed in all this stuff, this would take you hours to do, right? But instead you type in this, and then it creates a more detailed prompt that you can copy and paste. So I did that, and I went to projects. Projects is a way to keep everything kind of centralized in what you're trying to do. So what I wanted to do is make this Realtor AI assistant that can do all those things I listed in the bullet. So I created the project, and then I gave it instructions. The instructions are the prompt that was generated from the chat. This is the workflow that will get you exactly what you need to have out of your AI, okay? So once the instructions were fed in, then all I did was to create some examples for you guys. I did a few different things. So first is we want to do a first-time home buyer presentation guide. So I told it to do one. I asked it to showcase the benefits of buying a home, what service we offer as a real estate agent, and supplement with facts that showcase the benefit of buying, okay? So that's all I fed it, literally all I did. And it created a PowerPoint, okay? So the presentation, it tells me what each slide is right here before I click it. One thing that happened is it failed to load. This does happen, guys. This is technology. So I basically said, hey, it's not loading. I can't pull it up. So it fixed that. And then now we have a beautiful presentation that I can kind of show you in the sidebar. Now, this is not my brand. This is not my graphics. I would not stick with these graphics, but the beauty is if you have graphics or you have colors or you have a brand, you feed it that information and it'll tailor this slide to be exactly the color scheme that you want. Okay. So again, remember guys, I only did this prompt up here, this little prompt, and this is what it shot out. This entire presentation that I can show to a buyer. Okay. That little amount of time I put into this to get this amount of information and data out is absolutely insane. And as I was telling you guys before, if you like something, great, repeat it. You can tell the AI, you can keep this and say, hey, I'm doing a new presentation for this client. Their needs are specific to this. Can you retool the presentation for that and just have it regenerate, right? And if you wanted to generate these specific to each buyer, that way you're being super personalized, which could set you apart from your competition. Great, do that. Put their name in there, picture maybe, who knows, bullet point the areas they told you they want to look at. Whatever your mind thinks will add value in your presentation, tell the AI to do that. But the idea behind showing you this specific example is not because this is the perfect, ready to go listing presentation. This is 80 to 90% there. You just have to tweak it to make it your own. And again, we did it all with this single prompt right here. So that's the importance of creating the projects is once you create your project, then all you got to do is these little things and you've got this beautiful workout done in just a few moments. Now we can do listing descriptions, as I said. So I picked a random property online. I made sure it wasn't anyone's listing that would be here. And I just had it write up a listing description with this very simple prompt. Please generate a listing description examples. It's important that the listing is authentic, accurate, and sells the home well. I gave it the address. So it did option one. It did the brief up here, which kind of breaks down the data. Be careful with that, guys, because you want to make sure that's accurate. You don't want to have any listing issues. But the bigger thing is the description. Okay. So you've got this one description option here, very nice, very detailed. You have a second, you have a third. So depending on what kind of energy you're trying to put into it, you can pick from the three or just say, what, I hate all of these, right? And say what you hate about them. You just type that in down here. And then you hit enter and it regenerates all these different options right there for you, super quick. So until you're happy, keep asking. Once you're happy, you're good to go. Copy and paste and do your thing. Social content. Build me 2 Instagram posts that I can post this week based on realtor trends online that I can post. Include the caption plus hashtags to make it easy for me. So you have post 1. So I labeled it. You don't obviously use the label for your post, but this is your caption. Okay. Most buyers in Charlotte right now are waiting for the perfect time. Here's the thing. The buyers who bought 2 years ago said the same thing the year before that. And it goes on and on and on. Then you have your, call to action, reach out to me. Then you have your hashtags that are trending. These are ones that people actively use that will filter your post into more people's feeds. So you can literally just copy this data if you like it. You post it into your Instagram, your Facebook, and then you're good to go. All you got to do is post whatever image you wanted to post with it. If it's you in front of a house or so on and so forth, there you go. There's a second post here. I'm going to spend a little bit less time with this because I want to show you that I asked for it to generate graphics. So let's say you don't have a picture. Let's say you're not standing in front of a house and looking nice and professional and you don't have that picture ready to go. Cool. Ask it to generate some graphics. So this is the first one. Again, not my brand, not my colors, but just a very rudimentary example of what you can do. You can just post this and call it a day, or we can post this and call it a day, or you can post both, right? So, I would recommend when you're building these things out to make sure you specify your brand and likeness within your project, because then instead of telling it after it's generated this content what you would prefer it to look like, it already knows. So going back to kind of what that looks like, you go to your instructions, which we generated that prompt from, but we need to add our brand and likeness. So I would go back to our regular chat, just put new chat, and just put in a graphic that's your colors, an example that's your colors, your image, whatever. And you just tell it using this content, please add prompt to my project to make sure it uses my brand and likeness. And then you hit enter and you just copy and paste that information into your instructions back in that project. And then for all future project generated content, all of it's going to look more or less the same across the board. Now, email generation. Again, I think, I know that a lot of y'all have not used AI in your business yet, but this is the easiest way to get your feet wet. So I said, draft 2 emails to cold leads that can help regenerate home buying interest. These leads are named Jack and Jill. So it gave me the subject that I could post. It gave me the actual content itself. And all I got to do if I love it is I can copy it, paste it into email, put the client's email address in, just save myself 10 to 15 minutes, right? And one of the things I want you to know is it did 2 different posts for Jack and Jill. So let's say somehow Jack and Jill know each other. And there's like, well, Ian just sent me this super standard email across the board. I got the same thing too. That's frustrating. Clients don't love that. It's not personal, but it changed it all up here. It did a completely different email for the 2 of them. And again, I want to emphasize, I just use this. If I have more information to give to it, it's going to generate a much more personalized information or a more personalized email to those clients specifically. Okay. So it doesn't have to be these generic things. It can be, even though these are different, they're still relatively generic. It can be very specific to Jack and very specific to Jill based on what I feed to it. The key with the AI is it's all about what you feed to it. Okay. If you don't feed it the correct stuff or you don't feed it enough, it won't be personal. It won't be you. So you have to give it information. But I cannot tell you guys how important it is to, when you start your AI process, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, build out these projects. They're called something different on ChatGPT. They're called GPTs. It's a little bit of a different process, but it's more or less the same thing. On Gemini, they're called gems. I don't remember what Grok calls them, but the idea is that you build out the basis fundamentals of what you're trying to do. So Realtor AI assistant that does all these various tasks, right? Build out your personality and voice, how to handle requests, blah, 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 blah. And then from then henceforward, all you do is put in those basic prompts and you get generated content. So I want to stop here. I've said a lot of words. Who here has something that they would like me to just demonstrate really quick how to build out? And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be anything serious. I'm really just here for examples. I just want to give you kind of a live showcase of kind of what this will do and how it will look. Val, you're off mute. I'm going to call on you.
What was that again?
I would just give you one example of something you'd like me to just quickly generate here. Just anything off the top of your head.
Ian, so this part of it I have done in the past, and as a matter of fact, I do use it for my listings quite a bit, and
Okay.
I do exactly what you just said a little while ago. If you don't like it, just tell it to change it, and just keep giving you the different perspectives, and then at the same time, you got to be careful with it because often it has information that doesn't necessarily pertain to your listing. So you got to pay attention to that because you can get in a lot of trouble, as you know.
Yeah, indeed. I'll show you a quick example of that. So when I had it generate, no, it wasn't the listing description. It was the first time home buyers presentation guide. So when it generated the PowerPoint, one of the things I noticed is that it said that the buyer's agent is always free. So of course, I didn't want that to show because that's not accurate, right? We know that that's no longer, something that you can pitch to clients. And so I had it remove, I saw that in there and I had it remove it before it generated. So, to your point, Val, it is obviously, tweaking everything to be specific to your needs, but also making sure that it's accurate. It's a very important.
You really got to be careful, yeah.
Exactly. But again, the review process is significantly less time than, generating. That's the lengthy time. And even when you generate it solely, you're still reviewing your own work, right? So we're cutting out a lot of that process, with the help of the AI.
Yeah.
This is like level 1, level 2 stuff that we're talking about today. There's so many more things that you can use AI for that's absolutely incredible, but you got to start with these things first. Like this is the basics to get your feet wet, learn a little bit about, why, or not why, but how these things work, trial and error, find your feet, with the generation of the various content. And then once you've gotten that, then you can get into more advanced stuff. Like, so for example, like I'm running you're gonna probably think I'm a huge nerd, but I am with this stuff. I'm running a Mac Mini in my house, kind of like as a server, so that I can use Claude. I can use Claude's dispatch feature that they just unveiled about a month ago, and I can specifically tell it to iMessage people. So instead of me, doing it from my phone, I can put a list together, tell the list what to do. I can type it all up and then just have it go down the list and just iMessage, 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 iMessage. Now, this doesn't sound like too much of a time savings, but I'll tell you guys, if I have to follow up with 20 leads in a day, I'm going to do my calls, sure. But then when I do the supplemental text messages, I want them to go out at a specific time. So, building out my calendar for that can sometimes be tedious. So I just tell Claude, hey, on this time, I would like you to send these texts, so on and so forth. Now, Oksana has sent a request for us to do an open house invitation. So let's do that real quick before I dive into the last bit of my slides. Sorry, guys, I have to stop sharing each time because I'm on one monitor today, but should be back up and running here in a second. Okay, so we're going to go back to our project, Realtor AI Assistant, create an open house flyer for 928 Van Every Drive, Charlotte, NC. I think we'll just stick with that for now and just see what it generates. See, ask me questions. This is one of the keys here, because if with some of the other AI models like ChatGPT, for example, it's not always as intuitive. So sometimes it'll just generate without asking these questions. And so having this feature, which can catch you before it starts working on the content, super helpful. So Saturday at 1, 3 beds, 2 bath, private backyard townhome with carport.
So Ian, so in your experience, would you say that Claude AI is better than some of the other ones?
I would say yes. I have spent, as I'm not sure what time you joined the call, but in the beginning, I had mentioned I've been doing AI for 4 years, and I started with ChatGPT because that was the basically first to market that put out something worthwhile to try, and then they kind of held that market share for about a year or so before Gemini started stepping its thing up. And then you had Claude kind of coming into the picture, Grok started, and I've kind of played with all of them. And I just have found for what we're doing, content generation, copy, these types of things, Claude is probably the best of all of them. And one of the things I love about them is that they're continuing to improve the features. So like, for example, this is not even including the Canva plugin, but this just generated just with its basic fundamentals that Claude has. So like, I don't love the color scheme. I would of course incorporate pictures, but like, look, this is almost ready to post, in that very short time that we generated. I mean, how much time was that, guys? Like 30 seconds, from the time I put that in, it has all that ready to go. And all we need to do is prompt the little fixing of what we would do differently. And then bam, it's solid. So that's a perfect example of what you can do with it as far as like this type of thing. But going back to your question, Claude, I would say is the number one that I would start with if you're getting into AI, because they all cost money and you want to make sure you're putting your money with the one that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. And right now that is Claude. I think they're all the same cost. I think they're all $20. So there's no cost difference between the different models. So it's really just about what works best for your business. But again, in my experience, this is the one, and this is what I like. All right, so we're going to wrap up our slides here, guys. So this deck took me less than 5 minutes to generate. So this entire PowerPoint that we've been looking at, team, and my graphics that I generated to promote this and everything else, all this was done on Claude. The graphics I did for the condo call last week, the actual, for those that are receiving my newsletter on Fridays, Claude did everything that you've seen. I have not hardly done anything to adjust any of this stuff. So this just gives you like a scope of the power of what you can do in a short amount of time. So again, this was 5 minutes of my life to generate this deck. So now I want to open it up to questions. So you all have seen a little bit of taste of the different use cases. You've seen us actually generate a project. You've seen what that project can put out. What questions do you all have?
I have one.
Okay.
You mentioned about how it's or does it create a PowerPoint or the pamphlet or whatever? Do you tell it to change the color scheme, or are you able to go back in and edit that after it creates it to kind of maintain your brand instead of the automated develop?
Yeah, great question. So you can do both. So you can actually edit in PowerPoint if you want, but I wouldn't recommend that because that's going to take a lot of time. My recommendation would be to give it the actual color code. So I don't know if you know how to find that, but like if you go on Canva or any other, generative, graphic design, source, Adobe, etc., they will tell you the colors that you're using, the actual color code. You can feed that color code into the AI, tell it what it is, and then it'll generate everything to have that same look and feel. So like I like that black and red look. The red is like my company rate, that's kind of their color, and I just kind of like the cleanness of how that looks. And so for me, all my stuff goes out the same. It's uniform. My newsletter is the same. The graphics that I did for last week's call are the same, this week's the same. It's all the same because I fed that color code and some examples that I wanted it to kind of put into everything. But yes, you can do that within the models. You can also do it out. The more efficient way is within and then generate it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Of course. Anyone else have any questions?
I think we're all set.
You're good, Val? What about you,
Yeah, I'm
Marie?
good. Thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Very interesting, thank you.
Of course. Shanti, do you have any questions on your side?
No, I mean, I've been using this. It's a good thing. I mean, I learned a couple of new things to use that from ChatGPT. So that's great.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm here to be a resource for you all. It sounds like some of y'all have already dabbled with the use cases of AI already. I showed you level 1 and level 2 of kind of AI today. There's a lot higher levels. So depending on how technical you want to get or how much more comprehensive you want to get, I can assist up to a point. I mean, I have a cap where I can't do anymore. I'm still learning new things and trying to get better and better at some of the stuff, but there's only so much I know. But I'm happy to be a resource for you all, as you're going down this journey of learning more, using it more, doing more. Feel free to call, text, email. When you all succeed, we succeed. That's the whole goal. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to join the North Group team is, for that purpose and all the things. So appreciate you mentioning that, Shanti and Val. Janice, do you have any questions? Janice, you're on mute. Michelle, yes, absolutely. I'll send the recording. So for everyone, again, just a reminder, if you want me to send the recording, just put a quick message in the sidebar that records who all requested it, and I'll be able to send that to you all over email. sometime either later today or first up tomorrow. But cool. Well, listen, I appreciate everyone jumping on. I know this was a little bit longer than last week's call. Hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for joining, and stay tuned for my newsletter for next week's topic.
You as
Thanks
well.
for
Have a
coming
good
in.
day. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
your time, sir. Appreciate
Of
the
course.
knowledge.
Of course,
Thanks.
anytime.
Question for you. Is this something you do every